Hi, everybody. We want to welcome you to the great launch that we have planned for you tonight. It's wonderful that you're here with us. Bob, can you come and join us? I want you all to meet my colleague on this project, Bob Haverluck. Bob is a Canadian. He comes to us from Winnipeg. And he's the artist who did the beautiful drawings, the extraordinarily, sometimes savage and sometimes very beautiful drawings for this book.
Hi, Kathy. Yeah, I'm just on the shores here of the Red River, and the Assiniboine. Greetings, and Kathy, you're in Corvallis, and we've never met in person, but I mean, here we are, eh? Excellent.
One of these days, we surely will. Yeah, and I want to thank everybody. I don't know where you are, but I think you're all over the country. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we particularly want to thank the co-sponsors who helped get out the word to all of you. And let's just read these names out very quickly. The Oregon State University Press, Grassroots Books and Music, Oregon State's Environmental Arts and Humanities Initiative, 350 Seattle, 350 Eugene, the Corvallis Unitarian Universal Fellowship, Zafina Center, the Post-Carbon Institute, and the Mackenzie River Trust, just upriver from us.
And in Canada, Home Street, Mennonite, and Creatively United in Victoria, BC, and Trinity St. Paul's, United in Toronto, and Kairos Canada have all been helpful in partners in helping us launch this. Thanks, you all.
Yeah, it's great. We've never done an international launch before. And we particularly want to thank Carly Latero, who is the program manager for the Spring Creek Project, and Shelley Stonebrook, who is the program coordinator and who is the genius behind the technological complexities of this program. So, Bob, we have a book to introduce today.
We do. And, you know, well, I want to read a piece. I want to read a little bit here, and because this book, it is, well, I think it helps us along in our necessary path. And there's one beautiful passage that maybe says the stuff that's at its heart. Taking heart is not hope exactly, but maybe it's courage. Not reassurance exactly, but reason to persevere. Not the promise of good results. It does not depend on winning odds, but a call to integrity. Not solutions to the planetary crisis, but some modest advice for the inevitable crises of the heart. Not victory over injustice, but at least recognition of its cruel ubiquity. Not heroism, but membership in a community. Not strength, we can't offer that, but stubbornness, which might be just as good. Not good cheer entirely, but a chance to chuckle. Yes, and gladness to be part of the strange and necessary work for the endangered earth. I think that says something about why we're here and what we want to share today. But we also want to hear from you, Kathy.
Yeah, take heart. Encouragement for Earth's weary lovers. Yeah, I don't know, Bob, if we wrote this for our readers or if we wrote it for ourselves. I've been at this climate thing for 20 years now. You have as well. And I get discouraged. But the assaults on this just and sustainable planet keep coming. I play Libby Roderick's song all the time. Keep on strong heart. Sometimes it makes me cry, but that's okay. And what a wonderful act of friendship it is for Libby to offer us that anthem to courage tonight. I know you're tired. I know you're weary. I know you want to give up sometimes. Some days are too hard. Some days are too lonely. But I love you so, and there's no other way. If you need courage, I'm right here beside you. If you need strength, I will look in your eyes. The fight will go on. We're talking about freedom. We can, so we must. And we must, so we dare. So yeah, we don't need another to-do list, good Lord. We don't need some fake hope that's the last chapter in every darn climate book. What we need is courage. We need a reason to persevere and reasons why this work matters and a chance to laugh. And that's what we're trying to do in this book. So everybody out there, let's check in with you. I mean, I say I've been at this for a long time. I know you've been at this for a very long time. You've been caring for this old earth. When you think about the work ahead, we want to know, how do you feel? We want to know what you're feeling tonight. So we wonder if you would be so good as to click the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. And if you would just put a word in, or 2 words, just offer up the words that are in your heart. Finish the sentence for me. When I think of the work ahead, I feel. Tell us how you feel. And while you're doing that for us, let's invite Emily Grubby onto the screen to help us gather up the responses. Hi, Emily.
Hi, Kathy. Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Emily just recently earned her Master of Arts in Environmental Arts and Humanities at Oregon State University. And so tonight for us, she stands for the young people who have everything to gain and everything to lose in the struggle to defend a thriving future. Emily, can you see, what are people saying? What words are they offering? How are they feeling?
Yeah, we have a lot of responses. We have people feeling deflated, exhausted, daunted, overwhelmed, worried, totally discouraged, persistently courageous.
Yes.
Yeah, frightened, saddened, resilient.
Wow. Yeah. Emily, what words would you add from your own heart when you think of the work ahead?
When I think of the work ahead, especially in times when I get to work with you, I feel excited. But also I feel betrayed. I feel saddened. I feel daunted and angry. How do these emotions match with the polling data around climate change attitudes?
Yeah, they're pretty tight. They're pretty tight matches in the United States. I'm sorry, Bob, I don't have the numbers for Canada. But a record 70% of people in the United States are, quote, concerned or, quote, very concerned about the climate. And of those people, 81% say they are worried. 85% say they are afraid. Sad, 81%. Angry, 79%. Disgusted, there's a word, disgusted, 76%. And helpless, 61%. I don't know how many are heartbroken. It wasn't in the poll. Clearly, this isn't the kind of emotional state that's going to get us anywhere. Clearly, we need to find a way to replace these feelings with resolve, determination, strength, all these things we need, empowerment, and we might even say love. And those are the kind of things that we're trying to instill with this book in ways that we'll go on today to show you how. So Emily, thank you very much. Come back when you have a question, okay? I've invited Emily to pop on whenever something comes up in her mind that she wants us to work on for her.
Thank you, I will.
Thanks, Emily. Good, good. So Bob, you started this whole thing. You started this whole book thing. Why don't you tell people how the book came to be?
Well, so strangely, it about 4 years ago, I guess, I was out having supper with actually the Canadian rep at the UN on water, Bob Sanford, a wise friend, and he said, "We got to go to a bookstore. I want to try to get hold of a book by Kathleen Dean Moore," and so I said, I don't know her, but I went with him, so I said, I want to get a second copy of Great Tide Rising, which he then gifted to me. And I read it and I thought, well, geez, you know, if this woman painted it, it would be with mud from the seashore and the green grasses and the flowers. And she'd probably use a dead gull wing, maybe the feather and some charcoal from her fire. The kind of grounded sense of both delight and as well as a troubled nature was evident from the reading, as well as the kind of things that hearten and enliven. And so I sent, that was about 4 years ago. I read the book. I sent you a greeting and a thank you, and included a couple of drawings. And then we were kind of back and forth for a year. And then I think you suggested, well, why don't we do something together, kind of essays and drawings? And that'd be about 3 years ago. And so we've been back and forth on it since. And here it is. Here it is. Yeah.
And Oregon State University Press stepped up and published it.
Mhm.
And you're the one who thought of encouragement for Earth's weary lovers, which we are, aren't we? Whoops, wait a minute. Emily, you're signaling that you have a question.
I do. I have to know, there are so many wonderful illustrations in this book. How did you choose this image for the cover?
Oh, let's bring that image back, Shelley. And Bob, why don't you talk about what you're doing there?
Well, I think it's, you know, all of us, you know, I'm thinking of near and far, that we have companions, and we know that our companions who work on care of the earth can't look at the wounded earth without having a wounded heart, and work at these things without feeling, you know, brokenness and woundedness, and also the kind of relentless, the ongoing task of chipping away at this stuff. So the figure of Sisyphus, who was cursed to be pushing a great boulder every day up the hill, it kind of came to mind. But it's also true of our own hearts, that daily or regularly, it's a matter of pushing our heavy heart up the great hill of the day. And but the difference from Sisyphus, I think, is that we do know that you know, we are surrounded by good creation and creatures, and so how do you represent that? For me, I put a rabbit in. I'm trying to think of kind of what prods me. And that's certainly the animally watery earth in all its complexity and beauty kind of pushes me from behind and draws me forward and is to my side, to the right of me and the left of me. And so there's something of Sisyphus in this, but it's not, we're not Sisyphus. We are surrounded and encouraged, I think. We are in the courage of others, and it carries us as well. It's not a solitary activity, and I think if there's one learning is thinking of ourselves as parts of community, and the community of the animally earth, as well as the peopled earth, and there are that underlies it for me, and so I think we take heart because we're given heart by those around us, and in many ways. And so I try to capture that in a drawing, and I think it does nothing that your own writing doesn't do, Kathy. I mean, the you know, Sister Mother Nature, in your writing is both wondrous and wounded, and together, there we are.
Both of them, both of them. And when I think of Sisyphus, I think of him as having been condemned by Zeus to roll that stone up the hill, and then every single day watch it roll back down again and roll it back up with this terrible punishment for his sins against Zeus. But reading Albert Camus, he has a very different take on it. He says, you know, to do the work, he says, the struggle itself is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. I think, oh my God, What an interesting thing that the work itself is the reward, regardless of the result. We have no assurance of success, but the work itself is the reward. To go to bed at night knowing that you have done the work you needed to do. So Emily, thank you. That turned out to be a very fruitful question.
Thank you.
Very much. Yeah. So while we're on the subject of the art, Bob, let's talk a little bit about, what do we say, the moral force. The moral force of this art, this visual art and the written word. Why do we do this, you and I? Why do we do this writing and this drawing instead of, say, spending our days harassing Joe Mankin? I mean, there's many things we could do. What is it about art that we believe in? You know, I was thinking that Friedrich Nietzsche, the 19th century German philosopher, yes, of course, he says, we have art in order not to die of the truth. We have art in order not to die of the truth, he wrote. And I thought, what can that mean? To die of the truth. And then I remembered Medusa. Remember the Gorgon in Greek mythology, and the snakes in her hair, the hideous face, and any mortal who looked straight into her face would die, overwhelmed by the ugly truth of her. And isn't that our situation? That when we look straight in the face of these desperate truths of our time, so often we're turned to stone. So often we're unable to act. So often we're just paralyzed by the multiplicity of problems and their ugliness. But ta-da, here comes Perseus, who carried along with his winged sandals a shining reflective shield. And when he held the shield up and caught Medusa's horrific image, he saw but did not see Medusa. She was revealed, but she wasn't revealed. So Perseus faced her reflection boldly and cut off her head. So the question is, what is the reflective shield that can show us the danger, open us to the danger without turning us to stone? I believe that the answer is art. Mm-hmm. And that our work in words and our work in drawings is to help people confront the truth of our time and live. Mm-hmm. To help people be able to bring these truths into them and not be turned to stone, but to be instead energized and filled with imagination and energy. Or another way that we like to say it is, what we're trying to do is open people's hearts without breaking them. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a helpful analogy, Kathy. I think, by indirection, direction find in Hamlet, and art is indirect in its approach. It I think offers us a different kind of language. It's a language of the heart and an optics of the heart, you might say. And I think in our situation, we need to find all the languages that we can use, all the arts, whether it's song that we opened with, or story, or the essay, or drawings. And I think art is being indirect, and it allows us to engage what otherwise, indeed, is fearful, dreadful, frightening, perhaps, or simply unthought of. But I think it could be dreadful in two ways. It's both dreadful in terms of the hard stuff we have to look at, and it helps us engage it somewhat indirectly by story and play, etc. But also, there's so much good about us that in our busyness, in our wish to be self-propelled, we're blind to what's beside us, and because of our sense of urgency, I think we don't take the time that art requires, that simply seeing requires. We don't have time to really see, and therefore to be grateful
Yeah. Well,
of what holds us.
let,
And I
let,
think art can help do that. Yeah.
let's
Sorry.
look at an example, okay? Shelley, will you show us the broken flower? And Bob, will you talk to us about this? Can everybody read the caption? It says, advice to self. If you believe the watery earth can be healed, you believe too much. If you think it can't, you believe too little.
Yeah, and so how do we say that visually? And I think, you know, simply to stop and look, which is always the task of beginning with art, isn't it? As it is the task of beginning with the morning light, to stop and look. And you know, what do we see? Well, I see the flower. I see a woman, possibly an indigenous woman, in the lake, surrounded by the wilderness. But the flower is like an offering. It's in front of her. She's holding it up, and yet it's broken and tied together, and you know, as if some sort of fabrication, some sort of passing off of a broken flower as a good flower, is kind of my immediate reaction. And then, but when I look more carefully down below, it seems that the bottom part is actually sending out roots, that it is actually initiating life and out of sight, but below the surface. And so my immediate reading of the silliness of the offering is subverted by what is beyond my seeing. And I think you know, this picture for me in some ways represents art. It is that which calls us to stop and to linger. And what we linger over is a knot, you know, at the center of this is a rope, a knot. And when we play with it, it loosens it. And that's what art does. It's a form of play. It lets us sort of unfix the fixed. It lets us see that the game may feel fixed, but in art, we can find some play in it. We can find some movement. We can find some possibilities. And not only dreadful, but very good possibilities that our impatience maybe doesn't let us see. Yes, and it helps us find the companions, I think, that are around about us. So art to me can kind of, at the heart of it, nurture a sense of the good that does sustain us in spite of all the brokenness, in spite of the knots that in play we might begin to loosen. And art has that function for me, visual art certainly, and comic art.
Yeah, good. But Emily, did you have a question about this?
I do, yeah. I would love to know, Kathy, if you wrote to the art, or Bob, if you drew to the essays.
No. Well, the answer is some of each. Some of each. We could give some examples. Bob drew to my essay, Hope is the Other Thing with Feathers. Shelley, can we see that that drawing? Yeah, so this is an essay that I wrote about Emily Dickinson. You know, she had this very famous poem, Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And every time you see that poem, it's illustrated with some sort of little blue wren, some tiny sparrow. What I wanted to say in my essay was that is the wrong bird. This was 1861. The white supremacists were gathering their armies and they were marching north, and the black slaves were hiding in Emily's neighbors' barns, and cholera and diphtheria, all these diseases, malaria, were ripping through families. If hope was perched in her soul, it was far fiercer than a bluebird. So I suggested that we try an eagle, a bald eagle, and that is what Bob drew. But sometimes it works the other way around too. Let's see the mourning doves at Fort McMurray. This is one of my I think it's one of Bob's most moving pieces, to see the damaged birds, to see the heartbroken birds. This is an essay then that I saw this art and I wrote the essay for it. Fort McMurray, as people know, is the dark heart of the oil sands operation in Canada. It's the world's most destructive oil mining operation. It is 54,000 square miles of sacrilege. Sacre meaning sacred, leger to steal. So it stole these sacred leaves of the aspen trees. It stole the sacred homeland of the Fort McKay First Nation. It stole the life of the First Nation child who was born with an undeveloped heart. And so it inspired in me this essay that I call 5 Thoughts About Sacrifice. So the answer to your question, Emily, is sometimes he was inspired by my work and sometimes I was inspired by his. Yeah.
Beautiful, thank you.
Yeah. Bob, I am feeling that I would like to read an essay. Would that be okay with you?
Please, please. I pleaded with you in our earlier conversations, Kathy, just read, and I'll gladly sit on the side. So please read something. Yeah, you must.
I will read for 4 minutes and 8 seconds. Okay.
Okay.
This course is from Take Heart, and it's the essay, the first one in the book, and it's called The Parable of the Crab Thrower. Let us join a potluck in progress on the deck of a cabin overlooking the shoreline of a little Alaskan boardwalk town. People are drinking salmonberry wine and catching up with their neighbors while a bluegrass band tunes up, 4 guys in plaid shirts and rubber boots just off the ferry. The sweet smell of baked beans and smoked salmon rises on salty air. Shelley, maybe you could show people the picture of me writing this essay in Alaska. I go on. The children have all run onto the beach. Big kids, little kids, tiny kids clumping along in oversized boots. They are, of course, running with sticks. But in this harbor town, not a parent shouts a warning. If the kids can't figure out how to safely dance with sharp objects, they will never make it on a salmon trawler. The children roll big stones and poke with sticks, hooting and jostling. Only one kid stands apart, a lanky little boy in a blue sweatshirt, twisting one foot into the other. Then the boy is running into the clump of kids, grabbing something from the beach and heaving it overhand like a baseball into the sea. Stop it, you guys, stop it. Another kid chases the boy, but he twists free, grabs something else from the beach and throws it hard. He has thrown maybe a dozen pitches into the waves when a big girl grabs his throwing arm and wrestles him to the sand. It takes a while before the boy can scramble up the bank into his father's arms. The children follow the boy up the bank, wanting to tell their side of the story. Gulls swirl, crying out. What were you doing? The boy's father asked. I was throwing crabs into the ocean. But why? To save them. Justin picked up a beach crab, but it pinched him. So he stabbed it through with a stick and stuck it to the ground. And then all the other kids started sticking crabs to the sand. I tried to throw all the crabs into the ocean, but Chrissy held me down. Yeah, because you stole Chrissy's crab, a tall boy interjected. It wasn't Chrissy's crab, and she was going to kill it. As the banjo gallops on, the boy clings to his father, but refuses to cry. You did the right thing, the father murmurs into his son's damp hair. This is true. We may imagine the father proud of his son and maybe a bit frightened for him, because this also is true. For every person who tries to stop destruction, there will be others who try to block him. It's important to know that this will happen. Other people may hold him down. Others may laugh at him. The winds may turn against him. Destructive winds ride a long, straight fetch through history. It takes moral courage to stand against their force. The beach exhales in horror, then holds its breath in hope, because when the boy throws the crab into the sea to save them, he shows the other children that it can be done. It is possible to stand against destruction. It is possible to make some difference, even if it's not all the difference in the world. The boy could have said, he could have taken a stand and he could have said, this is wrong and I will not be a part of it. That's good. But even though he's small and the others are big, he says something even better. He says, this is wrong and I will not allow it. So this is how the story of the crab thrower concludes as the banjo-beaten day slides to its golden end.
Thank you so much, Kathy. That was a beautiful reading. I have a question. My favorite drawing in the book is Duck reinflates a deflated activist. Bob, can you tell me a little bit more about this drawing? Why a duck? What's that all about?
Well, why a duck? I think it's helpful to recall maybe a little brother or sister that you've had that you've remember giving a raspberry
Oh, sure.
on the belly. It's visceral, and so I think that kind of underlies it for me. You know, the drawing is visceral, but it's for me it's on the other side of weariness. First is the sense of what's in the background there. It is a sense of a damaged earth and a perplexed rabbit in the foreground in this case. And the duck, for me, it kind of embodies a surprising raspberry, and the duck, you know, is a creature that incarnates the shoreline for me. The duck, you know, holds together water and earth and fiery air, and the duck swims, it waddles on earth, and it flies madly in the air, and embodies life and liveliness, which surprises and you know, at times makes me giggle. And there are other things that do it as well, but the duck carries a kind of wonderful absurdity that embodies that element of surprise in it all, because my own cleverness, my own calculations, my own measurements make for a pretty tight rope sometimes, or make for a pretty tight self that loses breath, becomes breathless, becomes defeated. And so the ducks, against the defeat of the world and against my defeat, and surprises me with the raspberries, and there are other surprises that give raspberries as well, I'm sure, but for me it's the duck.
Yes, and don't we all need to be inflated? Don't we all need somebody to just take that old bicycle pump, or duck, I guess I wouldn't have thought my duck myself, but and pump us back up. only that were how it could work. We have to pump each other up, I guess. So let's check in with the audience again, okay? Let's see what they're thinking now, because we want to know what your ducks are. In other words, what is it that you can share with other people? What is it? Maybe in a word or two words, what is it that pumps you up again? I have to confess that it's my grandchildren. You know, every time I think of them, I feel, okay, they're working hard, my children are working hard, I've got to work hard. What else is a grandmother for than to try to preserve the best she can for her children? So what are your ducks, people? Can you go back to the Q&A and can you enter a couple words there so that we can see what your ducks are? Well, that's, I think, maybe the most important thing we'll do tonight, is share with each other what gives us strength. Okay, oh gosh, hi Mark. So Mother Ocean, absolutely. You stand by the ocean, the power of that. The ocean waves lift you up and then they crash you down and they lift you up again, always. Flowers, yes, yes. Lorna says, Bob and Jerry are our ducks. Yeah, and we thought maybe that they are, that this book could maybe be a duck without feathers, right? That's what you were saying, Bob. Grandkids, yes, yes, yes. Opportunity, oh, interesting. Yes, we do have opportunities. The beauty of nature and the cleverness of nature. You know, we are on the same team. A beautiful hike. Yeah. The gardens and the seasons. My son, wonderful. Oh, what wonderful names are popping up here. It's wonderful to see you. Sue's wild landscapes. Wild landscapes, even if they're damaged, we can see them struggling again and again to come back. Community, that's right. You know, people ask me all the time, you know, what can one person do? And the thing that I say always is, you've got to stop being one person. There are people out there who can help you. Time in nature, Sasha. Yes, the duck is looking out the window and seeing beauty outside or being outside. Yeah, yeah. Searching for my duck. That's right. This is our work in the world, isn't it? Is to search for our ducks. Dear friends, Sarah, dear friends, love, friendship, we are emboldened by love. Stories, stories, absolutely. I visit my peregrine falcon neighbors, if only we could. My dear friend Carol says, you're writing, Kathy, and sharing it with my family. That's really sweet. Wild nature from our friend up in Alaska. Watching wildlife. Is this a theme? It's the world that we're working so hard for. And isn't it remarkable that the world is working so hard to lift us to make our work possible? Sam up in Canada says music. My friend up in Alaska reminds me of rhubarb wine. She grows the greatest rhubarb that there is. Being outdoors on a hike and a bike ride, nature, games with friends, music, yes, music, 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 revived by walks in nature, birdsong, flowers, gardening. I love this. It's so resonant with the way I feel about it too. Pollinator gardens, meadow gardens, ducks and rope paddling, lake paddling, harlequin ducks surfing in the rapids, all the amazing birds. Oh yes, we have to have the birds, if only because they lift us with their wings. A green and gray misty world. Oh, my friends, the birds in my backyard, family of cranes. Oh, bless you, all you people, reminding us, the birds, the bees, the other creatures, forest, wildlife, salmon. Okay, salmon returning to the Elwha River. There are miracles out there. We just have to make room for the earth to make those miracles. Crisp fall air, spring, the shortgrass prairie. Oh, bears. The ferocity of a bear, the life urgency of a bear, the life urgency of all these things. Just to sit under the trees and breathe, hands in the dirt. Revolution. Okay. Revolution with a smiley face comes from my daughter. Bless you, sweetheart. The quiet time before the sun comes up, the birds, the children, the tides. Oh, we go and we go, we go and we go. Look at you, music and ducks are great because you never notice how hard they're paddling. That's a really good point, isn't it, Bob? That's the wonderful thing about the duck, is that they seem so placid, as sometimes we do. Laughing till you cry, singing in harmony. Local teens sitting all winter on Friday for climates, working with others who care. Local teens, local teens, local teens. That's right. The children, the young people. Perhaps I'm being ignored again. I don't know. Surely not. All the other good people also working on this art, music. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for all these things. Somehow, Kelly, we need to get these answers out to people. That's a heck of a lot of ducks. And isn't that really, really wonderful?
They'll keep turning up.
They
Yeah.
will. Yeah. Bless you. We just have to remember that when we're feeling down, to go outside and look at the life urgency and all the plants and animals around it. We'd like to do something for you tonight. We'd like to offer you books. So Emily, will you come back and let's move into our book giveaway, okay? And you've been managing this for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's my pleasure to talk about this book drawing. So when everyone registered for this event, they were invited to nominate a friend for a drawing for a free copy of Take Heart. And over 100 people did this. They gave us their friend's name and they explained in just a sentence why this person could really use this book. The reasons were deeply, deeply moving. Our registrants nominated their elderly mothers, their teenage children, their favorite teachers, and their weary friends. Our nominees included whole tribes, entire families, individuals struggling through grief, experts in the field of climate science, gardeners, selfless volunteers, and victims of wildfire.
Yeah. Yeah.
We drew 10 names at random, and they are Rosanna Shia, who has been hard at work reporting on environmental degradation from the California coast. Eli Wheat, who does so much to gird students for the work ahead. Chris
Wonderful.
Shaver, a champion for public lands. Patricia Bloom.
Go a little slower so that we can appreciate it and savor their contributions.
Patricia Bloom, who is stepping back into activism after years of taking care of her mother who suffered from advanced Alzheimer's. Molly Sutton Kiefer, who raises chickens and 2 beautiful children and teaches high school students.
Teachers, yes, teachers.
Eugene Chislenko, who co-founded Philosophers for Sustainability. Kara Stephenson, who was born into this earth and has always loved it despite her culture's dismissal and cruel indifference. Tom Umhefer, a climate activist who needs this book right now. Kent Barkow, because he struggles so hard to remain hopeful. And finally, Robert Sanford, a weary climate scientist with a heart that is 2 sizes too large.
Gee. I feel so good that we can reach out to these people and send them books. I thank you, Emily, for managing that. And thank you, everybody who sent in the names of your friends. This is what we wanted when we wrote this book, was for people to give this book to the people they admire and to the people they want to offer encouragement to. We're not alone. We're not alone. And it's our friendships that will carry us through this work. So I want to thank everybody for caring so deeply, all you people who signed up here, and thank you for never giving up, and thank you for the power of your example and your courage and your love. And we hope, all 10 of you and all the rest of you, that this book will provide some sort of sustenance. So what we'd like to do now, I should say that Emily will be contacting you to get your mailing address, and OSU Press will be sending you your book. That was quite a wonderful thing, wasn't it, Bob? All those people nominating.
That was grand. That was grand. That's a litany, a call and response. Yes, great.
That's right. Well, speaking of that, we want to close today by reading the last piece in the book, which is called Why We Won't Quit the Climate Fight. And I think maybe this is what people have been waiting for, is the reasons why this matters, the reasons why we keep trying, even when the odds seem to be against us. So this essay is called Why We Won't Quit the Climate Fight. And I wrote it along with my friend Sue Ellen Campbell. And Bob is going to read Sue Ellen's parts. Last month, on the way from one meeting to another, my friend Sue Ellen Campbell and I stopped along the Oregon coast to camp for the night. We walked down to the beach to watch a red sun set through purple clouds. While parents gathered up their families, lingering children stood ankle deep in pink water, looking out to sea.
We are old veterans of climate change and extinction struggles who have tried to do our part to keep a fossil fuel addicted civilization from driving off a cliff and taking half the plants and animals with us. Are we tired? Sure. Discouraged? Absolutely. Pissed off? Yeah. Sad? Call it brokenhearted? Quitting? Maybe.
It might be time. Game over, friends and experts tell us. We're doomed. It's true that the news about the linked terrors of climate warming, species extinction, and ecocultural collapse is awful. We all know the litany of accelerating danger. We all know we are running out of time. So why won't we quit? We need a list of reasons. Sue Ellen and I sat down on a log. This was going to be a conversation we would want to remember. I pulled out my journal to get it down. Why won't we quit?
First, Sue Ellen said, because we are not doomed as long as we act. A world where we do everything we can to restrain climate change barely resembles one where we do nothing. We won't like the first world, but we might not survive in the second.
That's right, we are not doomed. And also we will keep on because I want to be the kind of person who doesn't give up on important jobs. You don't do what's right because you think it might get you something. You do what's right because it's right. That's what integrity is, doing what you believe in, even if you're not sure you'll save the world.
And because I won't walk away from the hurting world any more than I'll walk away from my mother. She grows old and frail and sometimes confused. I love her and I owe her and have a duty to her and admire her and I simply enjoy her company.
Mm-hmm. Like the earth. Yes, and because I promised my newborn children, I will always love you. I will keep you safe. I will give you the world. I didn't mean I'll give you whatever's left scattered and torn on the table after the great cosmic going out of business sale. I said, I will give you this beautiful, life-sustaining, bird-graced world. Truth be told, it just about kills me to think about the broken promises to the children. And when I think of my mother, if she learned that her daughter's generation was losing the battle for the beloved Earth's future, she would leap from her grave to fight alongside us.
We have to do this work because climate change is unjust. It threatens the greatest violation of human rights the world has ever seen, but injustice is cowardly, fragile. It crumbles when people stand up for what is right. We have so much to lose and so much left to save. Everything from birdsong to our own sorry and singing souls.
Yeah. Sometimes I think that I keep going because I'm wearing my dad's rubber boots. They're too big for me, but my own are old and leaky. So I'm walking in the boots he wore at the edge of all the marshes he defended until the day he died. If you're walking in the shoes of a hero, you can't exactly turn back.
And Kathy, we can't, and therefore don't have to solve the whole problem alone. We only have to help. To help where and how we can. So many good people are in this fight with us. They are smart, experienced, and empowered by a vision of a planet redeemed, all of them. And I believe and choose to believe that in this emergency, as in every emergency, more of us will come out to help each other than will rush in to exploit and profit.
Yes, exactly. We do this work because despair is lonely and useless, while climate action is full of friendship, satisfaction, and glee. You get to hang out with people who care as much as you do and act with remorseless resolve. You get to go to vegan potlucks. Taking action is the only real cure for hopelessness. And I want to say that again. Taking action is the only real cure for hopelessness. It feels good and important, like you're not wasting your life on small things. We stayed at the beach. mulling over our reasons to stay in the struggle until the stars came out and the tide began to ebb. Then we walked back to camp on a mossy trail through a tunnel of spruce trees. A hermit thrush sang and would not stop singing, even in the deepest dusk, and that also was a reason. The deep moss was a reason. So were the ancient trees. So were the children standing in the swash. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all for your good company.
That's right. The tide always turns. It always does. Just when it reaches the lowest point, the tide turns. It will turn towards justice and thriving because of the pull of your strong hearts. You are the sun. You are the moon. You are the fiery heart of the earth. Pulling together, we turn the tide. Thank you for coming. And now we give you back to Libby Roderick and her beautiful song, Keep On Strong Heart.
I know you're tired. I know you're weary. I know you want to give up some days. Some days are so hard. Some days are too lonely. But I love you so.